What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid, and today we're going to be talking about the FF9 remake once again, because, and this is pretty much a major because, something has happened which pretty much all but confirms the remake is coming. Now, there was something else not too long ago, but I didn't make a video on that simply due to the fact it was something rather small and insignificant. But now with, with what's recently happened, with what happened not too long ago, and then everything else from before, everything now is just slowly piling up and up and up and up, and it's slowly becoming essentially a case of it's all but confirmed. So what we're going to do, before I talk about the new things, let me just give you a brief recap of everything that's happened in the past in this space, just so you are fully aware of what initially happened. So if you don't know, quite a while ago now, probably about a year ago I think, Nvidia was hacked and they had a leak. Now, the leak from Nvidia was essentially a list of games that they were working on driver support for. And on that list from Square Enix, there were a whole bunch of games. There was about 10 games total, and 2 of them were the Final Fantasy IX Remake and Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. Now, when this leak initially happened, everybody was skeptical about the entire list of games, because this list had hundreds and hundreds of games on it. There was only a few from Square, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. And once that list actually came out, everybody was just super skeptical on it. Some of the games had already released, some of them had been announced, yes, but that's easy to fake into a list. You just take a couple of games that are released, you take a couple of announcements, you throw them in a list, and then you come up with a whole bunch of off ones. Easy to fake, right? Yeah. Well, after that leak actually happened, a lot more of the unannounced games actually became announced, and then this leak started to gain credibility, because as time went on, more and more and more of this list of games was announced. But then, not only were these games announced, some of them were actually announced to be cancelled, and that's also giving credibility to this, because not only were those games on that list to begin with, so they had to have been, in production, and that driver support was being worked on for them, but then for companies to actually go out and say it's cancelled, yeah, that's a pretty big tell, to be honest. But that's not the all-be-all end-all, There are still other things to reference the FF9 remake. So why is it that out of all these games on the Nvidia leak, why is it that people were focusing on 2 games specifically? One is FF9 and one is FF Tactics. Because out of all the other games, even Kingdom Hearts 4 was on this list, and nobody really talked about that. There was a bit of hype at the very beginning of the leak, but then it was sort of forgotten and nobody really talked about it. And Kingdom Hearts is still a very, very large franchise. Pretty much, well, it's not really Square's second largest, but it would probably be their third largest, So why is it that FF9 is the one game from this Nvidia leak that just drastically took off? The reason for that is actually kind of simple. So, shortly after the leak, there was the announcement of the Final Fantasy IX anime. And I'm not going to get into the whole debate of it's a cartoon, it's an anime. Look guys, cartoons are animations. Anime is just short for anime. Just because it's not made in Japan doesn't mean it's not anime. Look at Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everybody considers that anime was not made in Japan, okay? There are plenty of animes that are not made in Japan. So I'm not getting into this argument down in the comments, okay? This happens every time I do this video. But yes, there was the FF9 anime that was announced to be in production. It was going to be a faithful covering of the story from FF9, which would start off, quite light-hearted like the game, and then it would be interesting to see how they handle the more adult material later on, like, the genocide and the things like that, because the company who is making the anime is slightly more related to children's stuff. However, they have made some more adult, darker stuff as well, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But anyway, once the anime was announced, this started to drive a bit of buzz, because it came too quickly after the FF9 remake rumor. And not only that, like, if you know anything about marketing, you want to get in on that hype. okay? But it also works as like a double-edged sword, you know? You get people who are interested in the remake talking about the anime, but then, vice versa, people who are talking about the anime start talking about the remake. And so it drives, you know, it drives excitement on both fronts. So it's an excellent, excellent marketing campaign for Square. But if that was all, then this would just be a very, very rough rumor, you know? However, there is a whole bunch of other things that Square's actually done for FF9 specifically. Okay, and let's talk about that. So, first of all, there was a line of clothing merchandise. There was brand new Kai Art figures for FF9 specifically, and only FF9. There was a brand new vinyl release. Well, it's not actually released just yet, it's up for pre-order, but the vinyl was actually what was announced about a month ago. And that's what I was on about earlier when I said something happened not too long ago. That was the actual vinyl for the OST for FF9. And now we have the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement, which was also on the Nvidia leak. So with all of these things combined, now let's ignore Kingdom Hearts for now, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So let's just talk about, you know, the clothing, the figures, the vinyl, the anime, and things like that. With all of these FF9, you know, releases happening sort of spread out, it basically just starts driving the hype for FF9, and it keeps FF9 in talking space, you know? Like, as long as Square keep releasing, you know, little bits and pieces for FF9, it's keeping FF at the forefront of conversations, you know, it's keeping the talk about the remake alive, which in a sense is actually acting as marketing for Square. And it's actually very good marketing, because anybody in the marketing industry will know the longer you can have somebody talking about a product, the better it's going to be. Because if people forget about it, then you're kind of in trouble, you know? And then it'll sort of come out, like when you actually release something, it comes out of left field and a lot of people don't know about it. That's why as long as you keep the topic at the forefront of conversation, it works out tremendously better for companies like this. Now, with them spreading all of these little bits and pieces out, because you have to remember, the last time Square did anything like this for FF9, like they've never done the anime for FF9 before. The last anime they released for FF was the FF7 movie, which was a very, very long time ago. When it comes to the actual figures themselves for FF9, okay, we're going to specifically talk about the figures. They haven't released any figures for FF9 in a very, very, very long time. And when I say very long time, I'm talking like 10 years plus here, okay? That's roughly how long. And with that massive gap, it sort of made everybody start scratching their head and like, what's going on here? You know, like why is FF9 now suddenly at the forefront of everything that Square is doing? And you know, I've made videos on it, other people have made videos on it, and so many of us were convinced that they are slowly trying to build hype up for the FF9 remake announcement. And then everything went cold for a little while, you know? There wasn't really any talk from Square, there was no new announcements or anything like that. We kind of thought there may be something at TGS last year, but there wasn't. However, now there is something else. There is the Nvidia leak and the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement. This was one that a lot of people were incredibly skeptical on, because Kingdom Hearts 3 had released not that long ago, so it didn't seem right for there to be another mainline entry into the numbered series so soon. But with the recent Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement video, this is really now, in my opinion anyway, obviously it's still a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt, but in my opinion, this is all but confirmed the FF9 remake, you know? You can't just take a shot in the dark at something like Kingdom Hearts 4 on, you know, a driver list, like a leak list in that. You can't just take a shot in the dark in that, because that could very, very easily go wrong, because it's such a big game, it's such a big franchise, and you know, obviously with Nomura, the creative director and producer of Kingdom Hearts, he's obviously busy with the FF7 remake, which, you know, we still haven't heard anything about, and also wasn't on the leak list. Well, I mean, it kind of was, but it didn't mention anything about Part 2. But yeah, so with the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement, that basically, to me anyway, means that there is some credibility here. There's just too much evidence now to ignore. Obviously, you should still be skeptical. You should definitely still be skeptical, yeah? But with all this evidence that's mounting up now, you do still have to take it with a pinch of salt, but you also have to sit there and think, okay, you know what, this is way too much stuff now for it to all just be a major coincidence. Now, will it actually be a remake? That one is highly debatable, to be honest, because a remake of FF9, it's a very large game, it's going to take a lot of time, and obviously they haven't finished the FF7 remake, but a large company like Square, you know, they have thousands and thousands of employees, they have many different teams, so working on multiple large games like this is just something that Square always do. But the level of remake is up in the air. You know, will it be more of a remaster or will it be a proper remake from the ground up? We don't know because Square simply haven't announced anything with it yet. However, when it comes to announcements, there is actually something coming up soon that we should probably look forward to. Now, as you know, last year, Final Fantasy XVI was meant to get one more announcement. However, creative producer and director Yoshi P actually made an announcement saying they were a little bit behind in production of the game because of, you know, COVID restrictions and working from home and things like that. And the announcement had been delayed. So the original announcement they wanted to make had been delayed to spring 2022. So we know for a fact that we have an announcement for FF16 coming in spring this year. Now, to me, maybe that's where we'll hear something about FF9 or FF Tactics. But until then, we sort of just have to keep hoping, you know. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments if you're excited for this remake rumor, or if you're looking forward to something else. You know, maybe it's Kingdom Hearts 4, maybe it's the FF16 announcement in spring that's coming. Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you have any more, you know, news about the FF9 remake that I missed or you've recently found and you want to talk about, let me know down in the comments as well, and we can have a conversation about it. But though, everybody, I do want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more content. As always, though, everybody, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.